Tonight on Sinister Folktales, brought to you by Awkward Soul. Can our soul travel outside our body? If so, what have you experienced? Please submit your experiences on this. His submitter shares a part of his story from his own book. And there is a story I received about a Hispanic legend called La Llorona, or the weeping woman. Our first story came through an email, and it read, "One night my mom was visiting, and it was time for my daughter to go to bed. She is 3 years old, and my wife took her into the room and put her to bed, and when she walked out, a balloon filled with helium bounced out the door above my wife's head, then followed her down the hallway, and then a left turn at the end of the hall and into the kitchen where my wife was. The lights were off, and then she turned around and walked back to us with the balloon still following her in the living room. My mom and I were watching this happen and hearing my daughter giggling. We started to freak out a little bit, and my mom says, let me go check on Peg." And so my mom went down the hall into Peg's room and said, "What are you up to?" And Peg laughed and said, "Nothing, just following Mommy." Creepy, huh? There's a part of that I'm not sure I could believe it, because there's no real detail of how it happened, what time it was, things like that. You remember little things sometimes, and it's very vague. It feels like it was supposed to be a creepypasta, and this person failed at it. If I did have something similar, and I'm going to tell you in a little bit, I don't think when we leave our soul or we leave our body, we can giggle. I don't think that can happen. I think we leave our body and we're quote unquote unconscious. I don't think that we can just manifest that kind of thing and giggle or laugh or be alive or be conscious about it. That's what I'm trying to get at. So I don't know. This one feels like it's made up. The author got lazy. This person tried, but in my opinion failed. I don't believe it, but if it was true, I am sorry, But this is what happened to me. Back in 2013, I know it was before my son was born. I was at home and my daughter was at school, and I was alone and I was tired because I worked and went to school at the same time. So I fell asleep in the couch, and I was thinking consciously, I want to leave my body. I want my soul to leave my body. And I started to drift off to sleep, and when I woke up from the couch, because I fell asleep in the couch, I woke up, I turn around and I see legs, but I didn't comprehend why I was seeing legs where I was laying down. But what caught my attention was this low growl coming from upstairs. So I go upstairs to investigate. And I'm walking up the stairs. There's roughly 14 steps to the rooms. I see this huge shadow pass through the rooms, through a little hallway into one of the rooms. And I freaked out. I ran down the stairs. I don't know what possessed me to jump the stairs. I think I needed 4 more stairs to hit the ground. I jumped, and I jumped into the couch. When I jumped into the couch, I remember seeing myself asleep, but I didn't care at that point. I just jumped into my body, quote unquote, and the pain I felt like a heart attack. It felt I was gasping for air, and I swear to God, I thought I was dying. And I hated every time. I mean, this pain, I've had it through my whole life. Anytime I'm deep in sleep and somebody like yells at me to wake up, I honestly feel like I'm dying. I'm not sure if I really did leave my body because I was actively thinking, I want to leave my body. I want to learn what I want to be free from my body and roam my home. I want to do that astral projector or travel thing, soul travel, So I think I was probably dreaming and the dream just scared me. Or I really did do it. I don't know. I mean, till this day, it has never happened to me again. I haven't left my body, quote unquote. But if I am asleep and you yell at me to wake up or you move me dramatically, I will have a heart attack. I would feel like I am dying. It's this pain in my chest that I can't describe. It just feels like I'm gonna die. So in conclusion, I'm not sure if the story above about the little girl in the balloon is true. The reason why I don't think it is true is because I saw some time ago a funeral of this little child where the mom was weeping uncontrollably and one of the balloons actually floated to her. I'm pretty sure some of you saw this in the news everywhere. And the reason why I don't believe this story, the one from my email, is because the little girl was giggling and saying she was following mommy. I don't think if it is possible to leave our bodies that we would be conscious. Like, it can't. I don't think it could happen. But that's only my opinion. You guys are with your opinion. So let's move on to the second story. This is a quick sponsor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest ways to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's easy, it's free, and I'm using them right now to create my podcast because I'm a beginner. I have zero clue of what I'm doing, and they have guided me to create my own podcast. There's creation tools that allow you to record, edit your podcasts right from your phone or computer. And I love that feature because I'm too lazy to go get my laptop, start it up. So I'm just on my phone and I can do it as comfortably as laying in my bed, in my room. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. They are heard in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimal listenership. So that's awesome as well. And for everything you need to make your podcast in one place. So please go download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Thank you. Now back to my awkward stories. This is the second story. I had many experiences. I am writing a book, and the working title is The Afterlife is a Busy Place. I had an employee die in 2012. He worked nights at a big building in Reno. He's still there. I have many stories about him since he passed. I've seen others have too. He once called me on two-way radio. I was alone in the building and had only radios still on. All other radios were accounted for and locked up. with batteries dead. The police have even seen him through the window walking the hallway. My dad passed suddenly last April. I had an experience with him, once sitting and once he was talking like a phone call, but could only hear his part. I find feathers usually after thinking about him. I would love to hear more about this person. Hopefully, soon they can share their final title with us so we can go buy the book, read it at school, at work, at the bus stop, at home, just chillaxing. Imagine the candles lit in, well, no, not candles. Dimming down your lights. That sounds safer. But I had something not similar to that happen. But back in 2019, in January, I was getting ready for a surgery for February. And had everything done, everything in order. 2 weeks, I want to say 3 weeks before my actual surgery, we get a call that my oldest cousin is in the hospital. He might not make it. Then in the midst of that, we get another call from Mexico that my grandpa is also ill. And that's my mom's dad. And so it's like basically three of us in the hospital around the same time. Because I think he felt ill. My grandpa felt ill in January, but he recovered and went home. My cousin, on the other hand, didn't really recover. He was getting worse. It was up and down emotionally and physically for us. We actually had to distance ourselves a little bit because we had to deal with my upcoming surgery and then my grandpa and everything. So we kind of distanced ourselves a little. So my surgery happened early February, and my grandpa actually went to the hospital again in Mexico a day before my surgery. So both of us were in the hospital. Obviously mine was planned, the other one wasn't. And the month was just terrible. It was unknown, certainly with him. He was doing better, then he was getting worse, then he was doing a little better. So I want to say around March 10th, my other cousin in Mexico, keeps me updated of what's going on with my grandpa. And he's telling me, Prima, I don't think he's going to make it. And I tell him why. He's telling me, he's not getting up anymore. It's very difficult. But don't tell your mom. Don't tell my aunt. Don't tell my tia. I'm like, okay. So we were just at home, chilling. And this happened, I remember it happened March 10th. And it was like 7 p.m. Because we were watching a novela, a soap opera. The Hispanics that we are. Anyways. And I was sitting on the sofa with my back against the armrest. And I feel someone touch my shoulder. And I turn. And then I think to myself, how stupid. Why am I turning? Because all I'm going to see is a wall. And so I put my legs down and I sit up straight. And then I feel someone's hand on my knee. But there's no hand. So I just feel someone's hand. And I look at my mom. And she sees me. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, I just felt someone tap my shoulder and put their hand on my knee. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're scaring me. Stop. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just telling you what I felt. And sadly, an hour later, my cousin from Mexico calls and tells me my grandpa has died. And I don't know how to break the news to my mom. So I wait a day and I tell her the next day that my grandpa passed. So I feel like he wanted to say goodbye to us. But actually, that happened to me. What happened to my mom was spookier, I think. So this happened in in February before March. So a week before March, this happened. And we were watching scary videos because that's what I love to do on my phone. And so I plugged my phone to my TV, and that's what we were watching. And it was getting late, and so I took my kids upstairs. And we were getting ready for bed, and then my mom comes upstairs, really spooked, and tells me, "Tell me who did it." And we're like, "Who did what? And what are you talking about?" And she's like, "Tell me who threw. You guys threw something at me." I'm like, "No, we didn't throw anything at you." So she sits down and she tells us. She's like, "I was checking the stove. Because my mom has a type of OCD where she has to check everything 10 times plus to make sure the doors are locked, the stove is off, the heater is off, or whatever. Everything has to be unplugged, and she checks it more than 10 times or so. And I think she has OCD because of that. But so she was checking the stove and everything, and she feels something hit her leg very lightly. She turns on the light, and it's a button. It's one yellow button that is in her pillows on the sofa. This pillowcase she made on her own. Well, no, I think so. My mom likes to crochet and embroider things, and my grandma made this many, many years ago. It's two little angels. So my mom sewed it to her pillowcase and put this yellow button. Well, it had many buttons, but now it has 0 buttons. And she was thinking about her father, good and bad. And she felt like when she was blowing out the candle, because we had a candle for him to get better. When she was blowing out the candle, she felt something hit her leg, and she turns around and it's a yellow button with a string, like somebody just pulled it out and just threw it at her. And it freaked her out. But when that happened, when she saw the button, when she felt and heard the button hit the ground, she knew, like, something in her mind was like, my mom is going to take my dad. And yeah, after some weeks, it happened. My grandpa passed away. We were pretty sad. But, I mean, it was sad, but he lived to be 98, so it's like, I feel like it was a really good time, It's a good age. So yeah, that's what has happened, And those kind of stories, those are the stories I love to hear because it's something that has happened to a lot of people, loved ones saying goodbye to you. I think it's one of the best gestures you can have is someone in your family saying goodbye to you. So let me know if you had any experiences of loved ones passing away, and before you even knew they passed away, what was it like? Did you grow up hearing the leyenda of La Llorona, the weeping lady? This story, or this legend, is all around the world, mostly Latin America. It changes here and there, but the legend basically goes a woman that was cheated on by her husband feels such horrified anger or uncontrollable anger that she takes what he most precious in life, which was his children, his 2 sons. She takes them to the river and drowns her anger with them. And after her anger has quieted down, just like their souls, is when she comes mortified of what she has done and commits suicide herself by drowning in the river. This suicide, or homicide suicide, was not looked greatly upon on the afterlife, and she is not permitted to go to heaven or the purgatory So she is bound on earth to roam all over the world where there's bodies of water, trying to find her children and ask forgiveness. However, the legends, this legend is more spooky because if you hear her very far away, then she is very, very nearby. But if you hear her very nearby, she's very far away. And so encounter my mom and my dad had back in the 90s. I mean, late 90s, I want to say. So my parents used to clean offices at night. And all of these offices were in downtown Reno. And if you have visited or live in Reno, there's a river going through the city. And so I want to say, I recall my mom telling me it was 2 in the morning, and they hear this cry far away, which my dad thought it was the ambulance coming. So they stopped walking because they would walk home. They stopped walking, trying to find the ambulance just by hearing it. They didn't find it until my mom was like, that doesn't sound like the ambulance at all. And then it was getting closer. And they finally realized what sound it was. And my parents booked it to the first casino they saw. They ran all the way over there and they called a cab and came home. And they came home. And that's the experience they had with the whipping lady. I have not. And to be honest, well, I think I had one, but thank God it was a cat. It was a cat fighting outside our window, and I was so happy because I was terrified. Another thing I want to say before I go is I am sorry you do hear my child all over the podcast. He's loud. He's playing games. And I'm trying to tell him that I am recording and he doesn't care. He's right here eating next to me. So I just want to apologize for the noises in the background. You know, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you. Thank you again for your emails and sharing your personal paranormal experience. I enjoy reading them, and I hope you guys enjoy hearing them. If you believe or not, that is up to you and your opinions and your beliefs. But it's nice to get spooked once in a while. Let me finish by saying thank you for making it this long. When I get an update of the person writing the book, I will be sharing it here so we can go buy it and read it. Let me know if you have any creepypasta stories you want like me to share. If you have any supernatural stories or experiences that had happened to you or others and you want to share them with the podcast, you can contact me through awkwardsoul.life or you can email me at camila3db@gmail.com. And that is CAMILLA3.DB@gmail.com. If you want to know more about upcoming episodes, please follow me on Instagram, Awkward Soul, Twitter, Awkward Soul, and Facebook, Awkward Soul. Thank you again for listening, eerie aficionados, and have a good night.